Okay, so we are currently live, I think. Let me go into what the heck? So it's not showing up. StreamYard audio. Oh, we are. StreamYard audio. Oh, we are.
You have an echo.
Yeah, I know. Oh, we are. So.
You have an echo.
I know.
Yeah, I know.
It's because I have YouTube up. Hang on one second. I just won't talk. I know. Because I have YouTube up. Hang on one second. I just won't talk.
Wow.
I know.
This makes the cutting room fuller, I hope.
Wow.
I know.
This makes the cutting room fuller, I hope. This makes the cutting room fuller, I hope. This makes the cutting room fuller, I hope. Jeez. This makes the cutting room fuller, I hope. Jeez. This makes the cutting room fuller, I hope.
Everyone has to go on mute. Everyone has to go on mute. Everyone has to go on mute.
Are you serious though? Are you serious though? Are you serious though?
Echo.
Are you serious though?
Echo.
Okay, is the echo gone?
Yeah.
I can't figure out how to copy and paste it to Facebook right now because so the only other thing that we could do is
You forward me the link and I try to, well, I don't know if
let me do this. Let me go on my phone and try that real quick.
Okay.
Um
I'm going to check a couple things while you're doing that.
Where's the live thing? Oh, I see it. It's up right now. We're definitely live. Okay.
Which
All right.
group?
I don't actually think you can copy and paste it.
Okay.
Who's echoing now?
I don't hear an echo.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, we do have it. It is live. It's on YouTube right now. I have 60 something subscribers. So hopefully somebody watches it. If not, it'll save and then it'll post to my YouTube just like it did before with Zoom, except for I don't have to pay money and it does it automatically. So we're in a good spot. Just like it did before with Zoom.
Okay.
I'm hearing an echo.
I just turned it off.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I put it up on YouTube and it came up for a second, but I muted it. So
Okay.
I think it's working.
Nice. All right, guys. So we haven't done the podcast in a while, and I think we wanted to keep it general today and just kind of talk about something that everybody kind of has some understanding of, which is the midterms, which are coming up in November. I mean, as it is right now, it looks like the Democrats are in a really good position to take back the House. Although, there's different opinions on how many seats the Democrats are going to take. The Senate is much more up in the air. I'm skeptical as to whether or not Democrats take that. I think it's a stretch, but possibly. Some of the races are much closer in polls than you would anticipate them being. We also have the war in Iran, and we have the economy, which is, depending on what metric you look at, not doing particularly well, I think, for the average person anyway. I mean, costs are up, right? Inflation is still high. So it looks like it's going to be a Democrat win and maybe a landslide, which, in my opinion, if it matters, is a good thing, right? Considering all the stuff that's going on. So does anybody else have an opinion? Chuck?
I mean, it's the party in the White House is going to lose most midterms. There have been a couple of recent exceptions to that, but I don't see where this is going to be any different simply because of Trump has negative coattails for Republicans not named Donald Trump. He has a very poor batting average in so-called contested races, particularly the high-profile ones, Senate Pennsylvania, Senate of Georgia with Herschel Walker and that debacle. It's like Obama. Obama was very good at getting Obama elected, but not good at getting other Democrats elected. The reverse curse. Whoever's not in the White House has got the motivation to vote, and of course, Trump being the polarizing figure he is. And the margin in the House is as razor thin now as it can be. So I think even most Republican insiders are, more or less conceding the House. It's just not going to happen. The question is the Senate. And right now it's coming down to really just two races that will determine that, because the Senate, of course, is 51-49. And
it's 51-49 right now? Are you sure?
Bernie counts as an independent,
and so does the guy from Maine.
Yeah,
I think it's 53-47, isn't it?
That's what it is, 53. But they caucus with Democrats, so they count realistically towards the Democrats total.
Yeah.
It's going to be tougher in the Senate, but that's the way it usually is anyway. Senate changes much more slowly than the House, 6 years as opposed to 2 years. But I guess all the tea leaves, even in a regular midterm, it usually does not favor the White House. And in this point, sluggish economy, a war that's dragging on, $4.50 gas at the pumps. It's going to be very hard for the White House to have positive coattails in this year's midterms.
I think that's all true. The only thing I'd say is Trump is very good at helping candidates in primaries, which is sort of the problem, right?
Yeah.
So
it is,
you get real Trumpian candidates in places, and Trump ends up backing them, and then they end up being the candidate. And on a more general level, on a statewide race, they're less likely to get elected. Right. Although I have to say, Ken Paxton, who is an awful piece of garbage, right, by all accounts. I mean, he's a pretty corrupt and bad guy, like provably, might actually win against Cornyn, right? They have a...
I thought with Trump, Trump's endorsement would have been enough to help Cornyn, but Paxton,
did he endorse Cornyn? I don't know if he actually officially endorsed him.
Well, that's true. I mean, he hasn't come out and done it demonstratively. But I think the conventional wisdom suggests that would be his favorite candidate. But I think it's going to be Paxton against Talerico, Democratic candidates. So, but again, I mean, you can't say you don't have a choice. I mean, they're pretty far apart on the spectrum there. So yeah, which is increasingly that's what we're getting. We're getting wacko A, wacko B, and there's no sensible C in the middle there.
I mean, I was
polarization.
Yeah, I was really against what's her name, Jasmine Crockett, and that's before I knew who Tallarico was. And then once he ended up winning the primary, a bunch of his tweets came out, and I was just like,
"Yeah, really,
Jesus."
Are there any normies left out there?
Yeah. What about you guys? Midterms, what do you think?
I think unless the Democrats really screw it up, I mean, heck, they probably just have to play Trump's 2024 ad campaigns as commercial spots of the peace president and gas prices and grocery prices. And I mean, Trump came out after the election saying we won it on groceries, and he could have. I think if he just stuck with what he campaigned on for the large part, and if he did moderate immigration controls, didn't start going after the wives of military veterans, and he actually went after criminals and really bad people, and just closing down the border, and didn't go crazy with tariffs that were cause inflation, and started a war, or at least worked. I mean, Iran's not a good place. Regime change isn't a bad idea if you can actually pull it off, and I'm not sure you can pull it off. So I mean, I think he could have did quite well. Despite a lot of people not liking him, but I think Republicans are having huge problems with him. Even MAGA Republicans are turning on him. So it's, as long as the Democrats don't really screw the pooch on this, when they should do okay, at least in the House. I haven't followed all the Senate races because I know there's a lot more. I think there was a lot more Republican Senate seats turning over this term than the Democrats, which gives the Republicans a bit more of an edge. That they're.
I mean, in a regular election season, they would destroy the Democrats, right? But I think in Alaska, there's I forget her name, but she's pretty popular in the state.
Murkowski.
Is that it?
Yeah, Lisa Murkowski.
She's not Murkowski. I'm talking about the Senate race that's coming.
Oh, and the race is coming. Okay.
Yeah, the one against Sullivan.
Yeah.
So
I've seen the names, I can't remember.
Yeah. I think she's like she's from Alaska. She's well known there, and she's actually beating him in the polls by a pretty significant margin, if I'm correct, which is a big deal in Alaska. And then there's Iowa, there's Texas, there's North Carolina, where the races are just way closer. Cooper is almost certainly going to win, in my opinion.
Yeah, Cooper is strong in North Carolina, which is odd. I mean, because they're just my neighbors to the south. I live a few hundred yards away. They have their legislature is consistently Republican majority, and right now it's a super majority. But their the statewide is generally Democrat. It's
Cooper was the governor, right?
Yes, he was.
Yeah. So it's definitely a surprise. What do you think, Ayana?
Alana.
What did I say? Ayana?
Ayana.
I just made that up. Has anybody ever called you that before?
I think so. I've heard it
Probably.
all. It doesn't help that the I and the L look like L's, so I get a lot of Ilana.
Ilana. Okay.
Ilana. But okay. I think that it's very hard to guess how the midterms are going to go until closer, because I feel like voters are very like ADHD right now. Iran was all the rage a few weeks ago, and I feel like now you hear about it, but it's not the screaming from the rooftops issue as it was. Just about like for example, one of the big issues I keep hearing about is the Spirit Airlines possibly going bankrupt. And then I heard Trump might buy it. So like, there's like these little things that like, you don't know, like that could influence a lot of voters last minute.
Yeah. Yeah, I think that's true. I think probably the biggest thing is going to be the economy. How's the economy doing at the time of the election? Because that's what people actually care about, right? Like, is it doing better? Can I afford shit? What's that?
There's still time from now until November. Like
there is time. I think there's time for things to change. I think it's a short period of time, and it's only getting shorter. So
it's getting shorter, but it's not as much time as it used to be, because most every state now, I don't know how many, but I know here in Virginia, we implemented early voting 6 years ago, and most years about 15 to 20% of the ballots are cast before election day. Now, I don't like that early voting. I think elections should be a point in time survey and not a collection of trying to rally wildcat support over here and get to a certain number. I just like it the old way better, but they don't ask me these things. But yeah, it's 15% in Virginia this year for this referendum we had last week had already cast their ballots before election day, including me. I was downtown one day and said, why don't I just go ahead and vote? So yeah, you have to take that into account. I think last fall, our new Attorney General, Jay Jones, had some very terrible text messages that were unveiled around Halloween. He still won because a good chunk of people, particularly the Democrats in Northern Virginia, had voted early, and their votes were already in weeks before this little scandal hit. So I would hate to vote for someone on October 5th, and then a week later there's a sex farm animal tape or whatever comes out and I voted for them.
Yeah. So a couple of things. The one thing that sort of amazes me about the Trump administration and Trump himself is he seems to be getting, like, regardless of the economy and the poll numbers and everything, he's still getting preoccupied with really dumb shit. And like, if he could like focus himself for more than 15 seconds on the economy, and instead of going on these wild expeditions in the Middle East, which is something that he himself has said was a terrible idea. And now he's like in it, right? And so there's that. The thing about Jay Jones is interesting too. I don't necessarily know if somebody like him could have gotten elected prior to the Trump era, right? Scandals just aren't what they used to be. So like when you hear about somebody, sexually assaulting somebody else, yeah, it still destroys careers. It still matters, but I don't think it matters as much. I think we're almost like fatigued from all of this.
Yeah, we're numb to it. I mean, there's no shock. Yeah. I mean, It was his, of the three statewide races, his was much closer than the other two.
Yeah.
So there was some impact. I think Spanberger got 57% of the vote. He got 52 maybe. So right. Yeah, there was a gap, but that's not big though. I mean, that's not huge.
No, the things he said were really bad.
Oh, they were horrible. Yeah. Yeah. But particularly, I mean, if you're a libertarian like me, the fact that he clearly favors force versus reason as a primary tool of persuasion, it's like kryptonite to me. Boy, you don't do that. This mighty government has to be in. Yeah, it can do a whole lot of damage if you've got somebody who loves force as opposed to reason. And boy, that was more than disqualifying for me. But I was only one vote. So
it used to be that when someone had a huge scandal, both sides would feel ashamed about it, and the person would step down and it would be over. Yeah. And now it's like, oh well, yeah, sure, our guy did this, but look at the other side. Look
at Trump, yeah, it's all
or vice versa. It's just it's your side's feel worse, so we can forgive everything that's happening about this instead of just everyone going, no, how about we do better than this? There's 340 million people in the country. Surely we can get something a little better than this particular scandal.
I was hoping last fall that, I mean, because of what Jones has said in those texts and in the subsequent phone calls was just so chilling. I was hoping that Spanberger and the rest of the Democrats would go, hey, sorry, screwed up, or rescinding our endorsement.
And that's where I think that's a missed
Vote
opportunity.
for us, but I can understand if you don't want to vote for you. I don't think they would have shed any votes for them. They would have added some votes from some independents. I would have taken a good hard look at Spanberger if I had seen that kind of gumption, that kind of bravery to say, hey folks, we're sorry, we didn't know we nominated a monster for this. Mea culpa, we rescind our endorsement. But no, they played the party line and kept the endorsement.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly with that. I think we need to see more of that.
Yeah, we don't see any, like Daryl said, used to be it shamed both. Now it only shames half.
Yeah, there are people whose views I disagree with, but I appreciate their integrity when they can stand up. People, Marjorie Taylor Greene, I would say is kind of crazy, but all along she believed what she was saying, right? She believed it wasn't, she didn't, she wasn't towing the line she didn't believe in. She believed that Trump was, this, and then at some point something went click and she went, oh no, he's not a good guy. And she changed her conviction. And you have people like Rubio or Lindsey Graham who came out and they knew Trump's not a great guy, and now they're kissing his ass. And I can't have respect for that. I can actually have more respect for Marjorie Taylor Greene. I disagree probably with every idea she has. I think she's way out there.
Yeah, I don't agree with you there.
From an integrity point of view.
Yeah, I don't agree with that.
Integrity.
I think she's just opportunistic.
I think she's a grifter, yeah. She's going where the money is now.
I forget the specific issue that ended up making her turn on Trump.
The Epstein files.
It was. I thought it was Israel.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
Ostensibly with the Epstein files, but there's this whole, and we've seen it forming even in the message groups, which is kind of one of the reasons I'm not really active in them anymore. This MAGA plus thing that's forming, which is extra Donald Trump, the whole Candace Owens thing, anti-Charlie Kirk, that whole movement is getting some momentum. They are very, very anti-Semitic and pro-America, and I've seen some people getting sucked into that, and they are turning on Trump like a WWE heel. It's he's not going far enough. I mean, and they're doing everything except supporting Gaza. I mean, and they're not far from doing that. It's a really weird undercurrent that's forming there and getting some strength. And Marjorie Taylor Greene, I think, is trying to
let's talk about that, because that's a really interesting development, right? I don't think any of us would have expected, maybe Candace Owens, but I don't think any of us would have expected the turn that Tucker Carlson and Megyn Kelly have taken over the past several months. And I'm sort of interested in the strategy of it, right? So Tucker Carlson, I mean, had the highest rated cable news show in the United States. I mean, never mind on Fox, and out of everyone. I mean, he used to get like several million people watching his show every night. He ends up getting fired or whatever. He starts his podcast, and now he's just been on this gradual trajectory into insane world. Right? Like I obviously hate Trump. I think he's an awful human being and a terrible president. Although there's some things I like that he's done, but I like him better than I do Tucker, who puts on literal Nazi apologists. Yeah. And like you said, I mean, he has this tendency, I've been listening to some of the stuff more than I had been in the past, to just fixate on Israel. Yeah. And the things he says, have you heard his latest theory on Christianity and how he's basically rejecting the entire Old Testament now?
Islam is actually the better religion because no, Tucker Carlson has lost his ever-loving mind.
But do you think he's lost his mind, or do you think it's intentional?
And well, let me put it like this: anti-Semitism is alive and well. It has been for hundreds of years. It's deeply, deeply rooted in many, many cultures, and it makes money. And Tucker Carlson is a grifter, just like Trump is. They're like the same thing to me. Just taking different trajectories or what, but they're both in it for the money. Tucker Carlson knows that there's like this big anti-Israel movement due to, the current affairs in the Middle East. And instead of fixating it on being one of the few democratic nations in the Middle East, it's just fixated on Judaism. And it's like, they're not even like a religious state. Do you understand what I'm saying? Like in that, for what that region is.
Yeah.
So it's very interesting. It's interesting to see people that in real life share those beliefs.
Yeah, I had a niece that just graduated college. A pretty sharp cookie, but she's apparently fallen into this Candace Owens rabbit hole. And some of the shit she's sending me, I finally last week had to tell her, quit sending that shit to me. Get out of my face with that. I'm not interested. And one of these days you will grow up and find out that you were wrong. I'll let her have it. This is absolutely unacceptable. I mean, it sounds like crazy tinfoil hat shit about I'm surprised she didn't mention Jewish space lasers. I mean, it was that kind of off the wall shit, and it's all from this Candace Owens influence stuff, and it's pretty sickening.
Yeah, I think there's a very, very large audience for that stuff, and it's actually kind of scary. I mean, back in the day, it was sort of limited to people who bought the National Enquirer, right? Yeah. When you'd see like Bat Boy in the line at the grocery store, and you would just think that's for the crazies. But I think the crazies are expanding. Like I think there's just a larger audience.
On Instagram right now, all the reels that are like Holocaust celebrations and like anti-Jew accounts, and like they're all completely acceptable based on the terms and conditions, which is so weird. It's on multiple platforms, TikTok too, Threads, like it's all this stuff, and it's crazy, and it's a very, very commonly shared. Like I said, you'll be surprised if you actually spark this conversation up with people that or work with, how many of them will actually say they believe that.
Yeah. The anti-Semitism thing is just baffling to me. It's sort of like how I view racism. It's like, why? Like why? But the difference between, and maybe you guys disagree with this, but the difference between the anti-Semitism on the left and the anti-Semitism on the right is the right tends to be much more overt about it. And I think there's probably a smaller number of people on the right that are overtly anti-Semitic, but like Nick Fuentes, those types of people. On the left, what's that? What's that? What did you say?
I was just saying, how is Nick Fuentes not in jail? Like the man's
really.
But on the left, it's much more ambiguous, right? Because you have this argument that I'm anti-Zionist, I'm not anti-Semitic, which I find to be, I think it's true. I think you can be against the state of Israel or against the government of Israel.
Be against the state of Israel. Like what could I'm gonna be honest, when people use that as an excuse, it actually really bothers me. And here's if you're against the state of Israel, like you have to also be like against the United States, against, like this whole idea of like using your anti-Semitism and masking it over your anti-Zionist, to me is just weak. Just say you don't like Jewish people. I'm not interested because ultimately there is no good government. Do you get what I'm saying? Like they're all doing things out of resources, out of money, out of nepotism. Israel is one of the very, very few countries in that region that is not completely volatile. Like, do you understand what I'm saying? And
Yeah, I mean, I agree 1,000%. Yeah.
Being-
I mean, if you're going to hate Israel, I mean, they're the only, especially among Middle East countries, the only one that has anything resembling women's rights. I always get tickled when they call it an apartheid state. You don't know what the fuck apartheid means. You don't know shit if you say that, because there are millions of Arabs who live in Israel with full civil rights. They serve in the Knesset. They have the exact same citizenship potential that Jews do. It is actually the opposite of apartheid, but it's a market-tested buzzword that gives them good feelings when they say it, and so they're going to regurgitate it and look like goddamn idiots till the day they die. But they don't care, because calling Israel apartheid makes them feel good, and it is just laughably incorrect. Now, again, you can say they've been too militant in the past about this and that. Yeah, okay, I'll listen to that at least. But to call them an apartheid state tells me I don't have to listen to a damn thing you tell me, because you're stupid.
Well, I think that's the general problem with a lot of people on the left and how they frame their arguments, is they always use this extreme language, genocide, right? The white supremacist stuff, right? And it's always, they go from, they could say, you could definitely make an argument that the Arab population in Israel has been oppressed in certain ways, similar to that of, African Americans here in the past, et cetera, et cetera. Those are reasonable arguments. But to use terms like apartheid just completely takes away your credibility. Yeah. And I guess I sort of don't understand. And I feel like, I feel like it's a losing argument on its face. And
I encourage a lot of people to just travel, go to Israel, go to Egypt, go to Jordan, all great places, but just actually go to these places and before you have that anti-Zionist, opinion.
And anti-Zionism is basically against the right of Israel to exist as a country. Being anti-Israel, government is also against, or the Israeli state is anti-Semitic. Now, I think you can reasonably say, I don't agree with some of Netanyahu's policies without being anti-Semitic, because I can be against, any party's policies in any country in the world. There may be things I like he's doing. There may be things I go, he should, some of the stuff they were doing in the West Bank before October 7th was going to cause problems. And I can say I'm against that without being anti-Semitic, but just saying I'm against the state of Israel, that's anti-Semitic. Someone saying that is anti-Semitic.
Fair. You can, just like we as Americans can be against Trump and against a lot of the actions that he does at the border here, but the fact, what I'm just saying, but the fact is that if there was an armed militia at the Mexican or the Canadian border, they would be treated as such. Do you understand what I'm saying? That's just how things work.
Particularly if that armed insurrection has in its charter your annihilation. Yeah, that's going to be some problems.
I think it's worse than that. It's like,
it is.
It's like living in Florida and having Georgia have just invaded your country and raped and mass murdered children, right? And burned people to death. What's that?
At a concert. That's how this all started.
At a concert, right? And literally they're right there. What exactly is Israel supposed to do? Are they just supposed to be like, all right?
Hamas's foundational charter mentions the annihilation of the Jewish state. How
they celebrated this.
How do you negotiate with a person or an entity that wants your destruction? You don't.
So that being said, I can, I'm open to arguments about Israel going too far. I'm open to arguments about how they utilize their military and all of that stuff, right? Although I probably disagree with a lot of it. I don't think it's crazy. But the genocide talk, the apartheid talk, all of that stuff is completely unreasonable.
Well, it cheapens the words, and we're losing the power of words through ubiquitous use. And white supremacists is, they've already used racist to the point where no one bats an eye anymore. Used to be white supremacist was the skinhead or or the guy in the actual Nazi uniform marching in Skokie, Illinois, that's a white supremacist, and they're so far out there, we just laugh at them. Well, now they call everybody white supremacist now, and it just bores the piss out of me. And you can't have an honest conversation where every person who disagrees with you is Satan incarnate. That you just can't debate. And of course, with some people, that's the goal. They're not interested in a debate. They're interested in domination. So yeah, it's as someone who, uses mastery of words to make a living. This is kryptonite. This is
That's why with Iran, and they can move on to the next big topic when we start with Israel, which is Iran. Is that actually also like a mixed bag? Because honestly, if this works out, it's like ripping off a Band-Aid that's there for 50 years. I'm sorry, I made the math wrong, but if there is actually regime change and this works out for Trump, he's also mentioned Cuba being next. So these things they're mixed bags. If you're really speaking big long-term situations, like if there is a regime change in Iran, people there get some control over their lives and their and democracy. That is a big change for the world.
A positive one, right? Yeah. So I totally agree with that. I think
having Iran become a more secular Persia-like nation would hopefully have a very stabilizing effect on the region. It's been a long time since that's been the case, but Iran was very much a westernized Middle Eastern country before 1979.
I would experience if that were open, like a place that people could now travel to that's been blocked off to everybody. There's just so many possibilities that, yes, Trump is terrible. He sucks. But there are some things about these big global events. And let's be honest, the war has been so much technology, really, drones and yes, there's been a loss of life, but I feel like it was how is it not going to eventually happen anyway? Do you get what I'm saying? It's like it was just everybody kept passing the baton on to the next one and on to the next one. And I think that this is maybe could be if it works out, especially before the midterms.
Yeah,
if it be a good thing.
If it works out before the midterms, it could work quite well for Trump. But the problem is I don't see how he has an actual plan for this to work out before the midterms. He keeps firing all his generals who disagree with him. Well, and, you really need opposition in the room whenever you're going to do something big. You need people who stand up and go, nah, we thought about that. It's a bad idea. And this is why. And I think if you look at the history of the area, there's no way in hell you're going to win this before the midterms.
Well,
he might withdraw and claim it as a win.
But that's kind of like with Venezuela, though, is it's like he didn't go in there and necessarily place a government. Venezuela had already people that were willing to go in and step in for Maduro. Right. And I feel like that's going to be that could be very similar for Iran. These people in these countries are so desperate for change, believe it or not. Venezuela, Iran, when I grew up in the Caribbean. So I met a lot of Venezuelan immigrants and even now in South Florida. And yes, that's a very microscopic, I guess, view of based on just my personal experience. But I feel like that it is a general point of view that they wanted change.
There's a lot of people who would like change in Iran. The problem is I think there's 93 million people there, and millions of them are very devout in praise of the theocracy that's in place, and they're the ones running everything.
We don't know how accurate that is because of who's been in power. Okay, so without I'm just saying so historically Iran wasn't really a Muslim nation for thousands of years. So that's something that kind of came down on them. Like I said, 60, whatever, whatever the amount of time has been.
I hope you're right.
I mean, I don't know. I won't argue with you on that, but
No. I hope you're right.
it's just like North Korea. Like they could be like, oh yeah, we are so happy here. These are millions of people. We love Kim Jong-un, and like, and that's all you're gonna get. Same with Iran. Like you're gonna get the propaganda of like, oh, we have 93 million devout Muslims, and like, but that's not historically who Iranians are. They're not Muslims.
So
I mean, maybe not all, but I mean, sorry, but there is a majority that.
Guys, I'm gonna have to cut out and bail here. I got news to do here, local news, not nearly as exciting as this, but I appreciate you guys.
Good to hear you. Good to talk to you again.
Likewise,
yeah,
y'all take care,
buddy. Sorry, I didn't realize. Okay.
So, if Trump stepped down, if Trump actually stepped down for medical reasons, let's say, do you think that would give the Republicans a chance to hold on to things in the midterms?
Yes, because JD Vance has a very strong support. Nick, I'm sorry to keep cutting you off, Nick, but I
totally
think
fine. To answer your question, I don't think it would make a difference. In my opinion, I think JD Vance has strong support among Republicans, but I don't think that he's very popular among Americans, and I don't think he's that charismatic. I think when candidates, it's one thing to poll people about a vice president. It's a whole other thing if they're running a political campaign. Trump, for whatever godly reason, really appealed to a specific, percentage of the population. But going back to the Iran thing, just real quick. So in terms of Venezuela, the Venezuela thing was more, in my opinion, kind of a publicity stunt. Essentially what you did was you got a guy out of power, you arrested him, and you went in there and people were like, yeah, Maduro's a really bad guy. He's well known for being a bad guy. All of that stuff is true. And then essentially you keep the exact same government in with his second in command, and you don't change really much. That's number one. Number two, you can't do that in Iran. You can't walk away from Iran.
Is that really what happened though? Because I feel like the new government
the only difference now is that the new government is saying that they're more friendly with us. But the in terms of what the administration that's in play, I mean, I forget her name, but the woman that was left in power was just the second in command to Maduro. There's no significant difference.
They didn't actually put the person in power who won the election, for example.
Yeah, well, right. So that's different than Iran in the sense that to walk away and to say that they've fundamentally had a regime change, which I agree with you, would be a phenomenal, event. It's going to be much more complicated. And up until this point, none of the, civilian population in Iran has revolted yet, like they had prior to our invasion, bombing, whatever. The other part of this is too, it's really not, I think if Trump can get a handle on the Strait of Hormuz, I think he could reasonably walk away with this, even if it was more of like a balanced, not necessarily a win, but politically he could walk away and say, at least we accomplished this thing, even though Strait of Hormuz was open prior, right? Just the pushback. But I don't know if he can do that, right? Like I just feel like as weak comparatively to the United States that Iran is, I just don't know if there is a solution to the strait that's feasible at this point that looks good to Trump. And I should also say, in terms of the messaging on the war itself, Trump himself and some of the people in his administration have just done an absurdly poor job of managing it. I mean, every time you see Trump, he tells you something different. He's like, well, we won the war. The next day it's like we're sending more,
my favorite was on Easter when he was like, if they don't come to a deal, whatever, it's gonna be bad. Praise Allah. And it's like like on Easter, bro, like
But that's what I'm saying. Like, it's almost like he's just a nut. Like,
well,
he just, like, it really seems like he doesn't. I just, I think he has some good political instincts in certain ways. He's good at branding. He's very charismatic with a certain population, but I don't feel like he's that skilled in when he does have these political, like these real big issues. I mean, in his first administration, he had a lot of people sort of protecting him in a way, right? A lot of traditional Republicans, you had Mattis and all of them, right, who were sort of, for good or ill, not really doing what he wanted them to do, right? And so they kind of, his first term didn't go that poorly. The economy was doing well, everything was going well. Now that it's not, he's just all over the place. He's just economic, the economy, the war, foreign policy, even with the immigration stuff, which is something traditionally he pulled really well on. And, he did a good job at the border or whatever. But the stuff that happened in Minneapolis was insanely stupid on his end, right? And he's even his own, the people that he appointed, right? The Supreme Court justices have repeatedly voted against him on the stuff that matters, like the National Guard being, sent to Chicago, right? Or the tariffs or whatever, right? And whatever the Republican Party was at whatever time, right? Conservative, and all of that, they're not anymore, right? They don't have an ideological foundation. And I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but it's just, everything is just so all over the place. And I don't know, I just don't see him being able to discipline himself enough to manage this situation well. I just don't see it. Like, does anybody at all, even his biggest fans, take anything he says seriously?
Unfortunately, yes. Unfortunately, yes. He's still got 30 some odd percent.
How many times has he said he's going to annihilate Iran? Like, no, you're not. Like, he's like, he's like the dude who's like, I'm going to hit you. I swear to God. Like, no, you're not. You're not going to do anything. Like, you're just going to sit there and talk shit.
At some point, I think we need to have a mandatory retirement age for leadership in places around the world.
Yeah.
I think Trump used to say some wild things to get a reaction.
Yeah, but wasn't to get a reaction? Well, I mean,
he had some control over it, though, right?
My take on the guy is he just says whatever he thinks at any given time. Like, he's the sort of person who's just like, when you're in a room with him, whatever he can say about whatever the situation is to make people think that he's doing a good job or to make people think that he's in control, he'll say. It doesn't matter whether it's true. It doesn't matter whether it's false. It doesn't matter what's going on. He just fucking says shit. It just drives me nuts.
At some point,
I just want people to be like, dude, what are we doing? We're the richest, most powerful country in the world, and we have this fucking lunatic just talking shit all the time. And that's it. That's what the fuck.
At one point, he had enough common sense that he wouldn't pretend to be Jesus and upset his evangelical base.
But shit like that. And then he's like, I don't know. I'm a doctor. Like,
I'm a doctor. And no, it's like, please tell me a believable lie.
Right.
Tell me something believable.
But that's what I'm saying. And I don't know. I mean, I actually think for the first time since I've seen him, ascend to power, that he's actually losing some of his more hardcore support. Not the psychos, not the cult people, but around the edges of it are coming apart. People are like the stuff with Rob Reiner, the stuff with Jesus, the stuff with Iran, like he's breaking a lot of the things that he said to people, and the concrete stuff, the tariffs. It's just the economy, I think he's failing. I honestly.
And I think Republicans are going to run into the problem that Democrats had with Biden. They kind of propped him up a little too long. And the people who propped him up will lose credibility.
Yeah.
And people will take a hit at the polls because they'll go, at some point, it's getting late in the game to go, I never realized Trump was a little off the deep end.
Can we just talk about how bad it was what the Democrats did with Biden? Like, think about what happened. He was a dementia person, right? Like, he lost his fucking ability to think. Like, and he was the president, and his entire administration was just covering for it to a point where I even believed maybe he's lost a couple. I used to argue and defend him. And then I saw him at that debate, dude. Like, I had to shut it off. I was embarrassed for him. You know what I'm saying? And like, so, you know, you talk about, what is it, 1-6 and the riot at the Capitol. And I am number one person to say that was the most horrific thing I've ever seen. But this is up there, right? Like, at what point in American history or any country's history can you remember the president lost his cognitive skills?
Ronald Reagan.
Ronald Reagan,
But not like this.
but not like this, yeah.
Allegedly, but I mean, I don't know. I mean,
Well,
And-
it wasn't as obvious.
If they had pulled a Reagan with him, I could have, you know, I think people would have been more forgiving if they said, okay, he's president. Because I think for most of his term he was okay, but near the end, maybe the last year, he started dipping off pretty quick, right? And if people said, you know, we're not gonna section him off yet. We're just gonna have we'll have keepers in place. He's gonna finish out his term, and he's not gonna run again. They would have been okay, but they let him run again.
They let him debate.
Well, that's what I mean. Oh, yeah, they let him debate. They let him run again, and they let him debate.
him running again after saying he wasn't going to run again, he was going to do one term, was the like
Whose fucking idea was that? Like, were people sitting around him being like, yeah, dude, do that, right? Like,
And this is
Insane.
where I mean, you need opposition, even in your own. You need people to stand up and go, I think this is a bad idea, sir. Without being fear of, being, Trump gets rid of all his, he just loves yes men. That's really dangerous. You need people around you to go, I think you're being stupid right now. And what if you have a friend who can tell you're being an idiot at some point, that's a good friend. As long if you're not being insulting, and they just said, hey, you're really screwing up now. You need that. You need people in your circle who can tell you, no, this, or at least have a debate about, no, this is a bad idea. We need to rethink this before you do something stupid, embarrassing, and bad for the country.
whatever. I mean, I just think it's insane that happened. I think it's insane. Like, it's just everything now is it's just fucking crazy. Like, everything.
now.
Huh?
The world is nuts now. I mean,
It is crazy. If 10 years ago I told you all the shit that's happened with Trump, the fucking riot at the Capitol, Biden losing his marbles, like all that shit, would you believe? No, you wouldn't believe. I couldn't have convinced you of that. You would have
No.
thought it was nuts. So
Right.
anyway,
in a Simpsons episode.
right. Correct. All right, guys, we should probably end. I have work to do anyway. But thank you for participating. We should do this more often. Are you guys down for that?
Sure. Yeah. Good to see you again.
Yeah.
You know my situation.
Do I?
Well, I would say I have a lot of free time now.
Oh, right. Okay. Yeah. Well, thanks for participating. It was good seeing you guys, and I'll talk to you soon.
Bye.
Okay. Take care. Yeah.